Hello, Michelle with Silver Snake Designs, and in today's video I will teach you how to make these pillow beads. I first tried making them with Miyuki seed beads, but one corner of the beads was, one corner of the bicones was actually getting caught under the seed beads. And so I kind of really didn't like that. So then what I decided to do was try with Miyuki Delicas, and I really liked that very much. They basically gave it more of a square shape, and the beads did sit up properly. So I really like that. And then I decided I was going to try with my favorite, the Toho permanent finish beads. And this I believe is 558, which is galvanized aluminum. And you could see that this worked great as well. And I decided to do it in different colors. Right here with the gold and the red and the blue. And I love these colors. Well, I made the first one and I loved it so much I made more of them. They're really easy to make. You don't need many beads to make them with, and I prefer working with Fireline because nylon thread is going to shred due to the sharp holes of the bicone beads. So I basically want to work with like a heavy duty string, and here I have a small pile of size 11s. These are the Toho permanent finish 557 in galvanized starlight. These are, you'll need 4 quantity of 3mm bicones, and I used a red AB, and you're also going to need 8 quantity of a 4mm bicone, and I used just like a sapphire AB color. These quantities of the bicones are enough to make 1 bead and like this little pile here. So let's get started. Okay, so I have about maybe 1.5 foot of thread. I like to use a lot of thread. I think you're going to need a little bit less than 1 foot. And then what you're going to do is you're going to pick up a seed bead, a 4mm bicone, a seed bead, 4mm bicone, seed bead, 4mm bicone, seed bead, and 4mm bicone. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go right back through that first seed bead that we originally put on. And I like to leave a tail. So just like that. And I'll keep my tail right there. And then just so everything is anchored down, what I'm going to do is go back through all the beads and exit this same seed bead again. So we'll just do this. Just go through all of them. And then back through that original seed bead. Okay. So there we are. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pick up 5 seed beads. And what we're going to do is we're going to skip over that bicone and go through the next seed bead. So your work should look like this. We're going to pick up 5 more seed beads. Going to skip over the bicone and go through the next seed bead. Noticing a pattern here, huh? And then what we're going to do is we're going to pick up 5 more seed beads. We'll skip over the bicone and go through the next seed bead. And once again, we'll pick up 5 seed beads. And we'll go through that very first seed bead, the seed bead that is right after the bicone. Okay, just like that. Now your work should look like this. Very easy. It's going to get, it'll be easy as we go on. So what I want you to do is notice that you have a little dimple there, a little dimple there, there, and there. And notice that here's a corner, here's one, and here's another one. What we want to do is, because this is going to set us up, because we're now going to go into peyote stitch, you can kind of see this dimple here. We want to get our string to go through these next 5 seed beads. We want our needle to exit. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We want our needle to exit this little valley, this little space right here. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pick up a seed bead. We're going to skip over that valley, and we're going to go through the next seed bead so that the bead that we just picked up is going to fit right in that little valley. And then what we're going to do is, this is just peyote stitch, so we're going to pick up a bead. We'll skip this bead right here, and we'll go through the next bead. Just like that. We're going to pick up a bead, seed bead. We're going to skip over this bead, and we'll go through the next bead. So now our thread is exiting the bead just before that valley. So when we pick up our next bead, we're going to skip over that bead in that valley, and we're going to go through the next bead. And this bead that we just put on should also fit right there in that valley. Then what we're going to do is we're going to pick up another seed bead. We'll skip this bead on the corner, and then we'll just go through the next seed bead. Okay, and we're just going to do this as we go around. Pick up a seed bead. This is peyote stitch. Okay, skip the next seed bead, go through the next seed bead. Pick up a seed bead, skip that seed bead in the valley, and go through the next seed bead. And then this bead should also. And so now we'll pick up another seed bead. We'll skip a bead, and we'll go through the next bead. We'll pick up a seed bead, skip a bead, and go through the next seed bead. Pick up a bead, skip over that little valley bead, and go through the next seed bead. Pick up a seed bead, skip over the bead, go through the next seed bead. And we're coming up onto our step up. So now what we're going to do is go to our step up. Now as you can see, we have another bead here. We're going to skip over this one. We have a bead here, and we have a bead here. We need to get up to do the next round, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to skip over that bead. We're going to go through that bead, and then the next bead. So we'll try and get our needle in there. And if you can only do one bead at a time, that's okay. But I was able to do both beads. There we go. So now what we're going to do is, you can see we have a corner here, a corner here, a corner here, and a corner here. That's where our bicones are going to go. And along the longer edge, that's where our seed beads are going to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up a seed bead, and we're going to go through that next bead right there. Okay, so this is another round of peyote stitch. Now we're going to pick up a bicone, the little 3mm one, and we're going to skip over the seed bead, and we're going to go through that next seed bead. Okay, so just like that. Then we're going to pick up a seed bead, and we're going to go through the next seed bead. So we'll pick up 2 on this side, 1, and then we'll pick up another seed bead. We'll skip over and go through the next seed bead, 2. Now it's time for a bicone. And then we skip over and go through that next seed bead. And then we pick up 2 again. So we do 1 seed bead, skip over, go through that next one sticking up, pick up a seed bead, skip over 1, go through the next one sticking up, and then we pick up our bicone, and we go through the next seed bead sticking up, pick up 1, go through the next seed bead sticking up, pick up 2, number 2, go through that one, then we'll pick up a bicone. Now at this point you may find yourself It may start to curl up, it may not, okay? And then we'll go through here. Go through that next bead. Now, because we originally put a bead on here, that means we only need to add one bead for our step up, okay? So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna skip over this bead, and then we're gonna go through this bead and this bead. But that's all we're gonna do, because that ends that. And let me show you what you're gonna do next. So we're gonna go up those two beads right there. And so now this is what you're gonna do, okay? Your thread, your tail is coming out here, okay? So what I want you to do is take the piece and just pull tight. And it may start to pull up into a little, I don't know, bowl like this. If your tail's on this side, that's okay. You can just flip it over like this. But if you're having issues with it and it won't curl up when you do it this way, because we want our thread to be inside that little bowl, because what we're going to do is we're going to take our working thread, we're going to work it through the piece, and we're going to hide it in the bowl. But if it doesn't work that way and it wants to go this way with your thread on the other side, if it works that way, for me, my thread is coming out here. But if it does it like this and your thread is on the outside and it wants to bowl up this way, it's okay, because you can just take your thread and just pop it through like that, so it's on the inside. So no worries, depending on which way you want it to go. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, now that my thread is on the inside, I'm just going to shape it up so it looks like a nice little bowl. And then I'm just going to take my working thread, and I want to get it to one of those blue bicones, and I'll just do it like this. Because I want to get my working thread near the tail thread so I can tie it off. Okay, there we go. And let's see, looks like I have to go through one more, so we'll go through that bead, then we'll go through that bicone, and then what you can do is you can just take your needle, pop it through the piece just like that, remove your needle, just pull, and then just tie it off. And it's okay if you leave some thread in there when you close it. And it doesn't have to be completely bowl shape. It can be like this. It really doesn't matter, because we're going to be making a second piece and we're going to be joining those two pieces. So as long as you basically have this shape and what I showed you, you should be fine. Okay, so now I'm just going to snip that. And I don't think I'm going to have enough thread. Well, I might. Let's play with it. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to work on the second part. Okay, so the second part is going to be the exact same as the first part, except we're not doing the round with the four mini little bicones there. So once again, we'll pick up a seed bead, a bicone, seed bead, bicone, and just keep doing this until you don't have any bicones left. Seed bead and bicone. So once you add on your last bicone, that's it. We'll bring those down. Keep a little bit of a tail. We'll go through our first seed bead that we just put on. I'll go back through all the beads. just like that. Just like that. And now we're going to do our 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Skip over the bicone and go through the next seed bead. Pick up 5 more. Skip over the bicone, go through the next seed bead. Pick up 5 more. Skip over the bicone, go through the next seed bead, and then our last 5. And then we're going to go through that seed bead just past the bicone. And now I'm going to take my needle, go through the 5 seed beads just like this, so that my thread is that my needle is exiting the bead just before the little dimple there. And then we're going to do our round of peyote. So we'll skip a bead, go through the next seed bead, pick up a bead, go through the next seed bead, pick up a bead, go through the next seed bead, and just do this all the way around. And the reason why we're doing this is because we're going to zipper up the 2 ends. And anytime you're going to zipper up 2 pieces of something, you don't want to have the same number of rows if you're doing peyote stitch and you have to do the 2 sides, because then what you're going to do is when you do peyote stitch, it makes these mountains and valleys. So here we have a valley. You can see right here the beads sticking up, I call them mountains, and the spaces in between I call valleys. So if you have a peyote stitch that you want to, hold on a second, that you want to zipper up, if you have the same number of rows on both pieces, you're going to have mountains match up with mountains and valleys match up with valleys. But if you have, like right here, we did the first round, the second round, and the third round. Here we're only doing 2 rounds. So that way, and I'll show you in a minute, that the valleys are going to match up with the mountains, and the mountains are going to match up with the valleys. And that's why we are doing it this way. Trust me, I have spent time trying to figure this out, doing it in one shot on one bead, but I can't. So this is the only way we're going to do it, is by bringing the 2 pieces together. And if you can find a way, or if you know of a way to do it, please, please, please put it in the comment below and we can share that with the other beaders. But this is the only way I figured out how to do it. So I'm just coming up around, okay? And then, all right, so now I got to go through my step up. So I'm going to skip that bead. I'm going to go through that next bead right there. And then there's my step up. And then I'll show you what to do. Okay. So now, what I'm going to show you is this. If we were to take both ends, what I want you to do is I want you to match up, because if you're new at this, I want you to match up the little red bicones to the corner. Now, if you see that, you can see how the little valley, so this would be considered a mountain, and this would be considered a valley in between these beads here. And that's where our beads would sit up. Now, you can see we have a little mountain here, and there's a valley here. We're going to take this, and you can see this bead sticking up right here. Let's see if I can get you to see this. This bead sticking up right here is going to go into this valley here. So our thread, let's see if I can, okay, there. Our thread is exiting this bead. So what we want to do is we want to go through the bead on this side. This is sticking up here, which means this will fit in the valley here, okay? So we're going to go through here, and I'm not going to pull this too tight, but we want to zipper it up, which means we're going to go back and forth in a Z shape, which means we're going to go through this next bead sticking up on this side. Okay, and if you see how your thread is doing like that Z shape? Then we're going to go through the bicone here. And then the next bead sticking up on this side is this one right here. Okay. Then what we need to do is look to see, okay, so now we have to go on the other side. What's the bead that's sticking up as closest to the bicone? Be this bead, okay? And you see, I'm not going to pull tight just yet. Now our thread exited here. We went to here. Now the next one sticking up is over here. And this is how we zipper. And you can see the path of the thread. See how that zippers up? And then we go through this bead here. And then do you see when we pull them together how the mountains and the valleys line up? And then we're going to go through, because now we know we're on our corner here, we know that our next bead is, because we're exiting this one, is going to be this one. And then we're going to go through the bicone. And you can see the valley. We're going to go back up through this bead up here. Now the next one's sticking out. Let me fix my thread. Okay, now the next one sticking out is that bead right there. So we're going to go through that one. And this is all you do. You go through the next beads that are sticking up and make sure and keep yourself straight. And if you feel like you're getting a little out of it, watch your corners and make sure that your corners and your little bicones, your little mountain bicone, fits in that little valley right there on that side. Okay, and then that'll help keep you straight. So that way when you see, you can see that bead right there is fitting in the valley here. And this mountain bead is sitting in the valley here. And that is how you zipper. And then when you get really good, you can just do this and see, just like that, how to zipper. And I can just boop, boop, boop right along, just like that, because I can see the diagonal and the bead sticking up. And then that's how you get fast at that. Oh, and another thing, while we're here, do you see your tail? We want to get the tail on the outside. So just grab your tail, pop it through the piece, anywhere, just pop it out. Because there's no way we can tie off the tail if it's on the inside and we have the inside sewn up. And then, so yeah, we're just going to continue zippering along. We're almost done. So we're going to zipper that. Going to go through that bead. Go through the bicone. And make sure too that you just pull a little tight. And then we'll go through that bead, and then we'll zipper here. And then I'll take that bead, go through that one. And last but not least, go through that one and go through the bicone. Okay. And then I'll bring my needle through the bicone. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring my working thread. I'm going to go back through the piece. I'm going to just get it down to the blue bicone. I'm going to bring it around, meet the tail piece. And then what I want to do though is I don't want to do the tail piece right there on the blue. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do this. I'm going to pop my needle down here on the side, just right there. And then I'm going to bring my working thread down there as well. I'm going to add my needle onto the tail. And then I'm just going to bring that down just like that. I'm going to tie it off and we will be done. So we got one knot, two knots, and you can knot it as many times as you want, but for the sake of this video I'm only going to do it twice. Okay. And we're gonna cut it. If you want, you can add a drop of glue. And there you go. You just made the bead. And it's so much fun too, because I like the way the bicones fit. They can just, it makes like a nice little earring thing. You can make it just like a nice little, you know, little pendant. If you want just a simple chain, you could just do, you know, a string, just one gold, you know, with one gold strand, and just have this hang in. Just have it really simple, and as you can see, it doesn't take very many beads at all. So thank you so much for, you know, staying with me through this little project. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video.